In the early 19th century, the European demand for beaver pelts was growing rapidly. The Hudson's Bay Company had been relying on birch bark canoes to transport the fur harvest, but wanted something less fragile and that could carry more goods. Orkney Islanders, boat builders with a strong Scandinavian heritage, were brought to York Factory on the west shore of Hudson Bay. They were charged with designing and building a craft better suited to carry larger loads of freight to and from points west, and the York boat was born. The North Saskatchewan River was a major highway for the fur trade, and Fort Edmonton's location on the river made it an important collection point for the fur trade, and a critical link between Hudson Bay and the Arctic watersheds. Edmonton still prides itself as a gateway to the north. Due to its location, Fort Edmonton was chosen to become a boat building center. Boat builders were moved west, and they brought plenty of good hand tools such as saws, chisels, drills and drill bits, clamps, planes, and hammers. But the boats had to be built, for the most part, with local materials. Spruce and birch logs were felled, collected, and seasoned, then cut into appropriate sizes. Spruce was used for keels, sawn ribs, and planking, and birch was used for the bent ribs. Iron was shipped from Europe and forged into the shapes needed, for example, for rudder fittings, mast supports, rings for the steering sweeps, and strips for keel protection. The planks were fastened to the ribs with square nails driven through, then clenched over. The joints between planks were caulked with hemp and coated with a mixture of spruce pitch, animal fat, and charcoal below the waterline. Everything else was coated with linseed oil. The boat builders worked steadily to maintain a fleet of river-worthy craft, as a boat's life on the river was typically 2 to 3 seasons. The 3,000-kilometer trip to the bay was hard on the boats, as at several spots they had to be beached, unloaded, then roughly hauled over log rollers to get around a portage. In the fall, when the York Boat Brigade arrived back at the fort, it was time for a celebration. Families were reunited, news was delivered, and critical supplies were replenished. At modern Fort Edmonton, staff and volunteers in costume frequently reenact the arrival of the brigade, much to the enjoyment of the spectators on hand.
Of course, welcome back to all of you. Kearney, it's good to see you in such good health.
And a crowd from the fort to welcome us home.
Hey!
Woohoo! For these brave men.
Hip hip! Hurrah!
Hip hip!
Hurrah! Hip hip! Hurrah! I'm sure it was not an easy row.
It was for me.
Oh, yeah. Good target. I hope you didn't train yourself too hard.
Oh, not too hard.
Now, let's look lively, man. You're not finished yet.
So that's the belt that she's talking about. To help keep their course stable.
Can I trouble you to make that fast, sir? Sure. Thank you.
So we do.
I've got duties elsewhere, unfortunately.
Wonderful, yes. All is in good order. Really well without you. The chief trader there is.
How is Mr. Rowan's son?
Well, there we are. One moment, sorry, Mr. Harriet.
Oh, that's quite all right. Kona?
Mr. Harriet, sir.
This isn't the clerk.
Yes.
That's
Imagine quite well.
Oh, excellent. Oh, nice to have you back.
Good day. Should be fine now. Yeah, back it up a little bit. Much needed mustard. Jump on it.
The radio was suddenly coming in. I thought it would be fuller than this.
Good day.
Oh, we got the crew down here.
Yes. I see we have some new recruits for as laborers. I trust you're all young men of at least 15 years old or yeah. You seem so. Yes, young men.
If anyone asks, you're a man.
Don't worry. You can grab some freight if you'd like.
Even with some of these laborers, I use the term loosely.
Excuse me there.
No, that's me. There, I got some. There you go.
Girls want to
Excellent. I think you know the way to the store.
And these boys here and
Lacey.
Don't let Kiri fool you. He's actually quite weak. Or sorry, not Kiri. It's
Now, the shipment of mustard does come with a stern warning about being too liberal with the rations. The nature of such a command is rather private and confidential, so perhaps we should continue such business in the fort. There you are.
well.
up to the floor, please.
That's McDougal. Islis, I'll leave these men in your hands.
Shall we load him? I will be back for the inventory.
Fantastic. Let me
You're just trying to pass
shake
it off,
a
sir.
few hands first.
I see what you're doing.
I see many
Put the
folks
tumbler on, and we'll
helping
put this
us.
on you.
I do too.
Well, let this be a lesson.
Why these two ladies? Come on down. Take a load for us.
There you go, sir.
Yeah. Do we have a rope for this gentleman?
Rope? Do you believe you have
do
it?
it, yeah.
All right. You are, sir.
I'll take your hat up to the fort, pas de cheveux. Thierry?
Yeah.
So heavy.
I'll take one.
Would you like to take one? I don't know.
Salted tongue.
Good day, sir.
Oh,
Are you here to help?
I'll take the salted tongue.
Oh, leaving me with the gunpowder.
Yeah, sir.
Hey, Grant, perhaps you can give that one to the
Toss.
yellow-haired woman.
I suspect we can. We'll get the red-bearded man to do that.
What would you like? Bernie?
Joseph, do that.
The oars.
Joseph,
Go grab the oars. Oh,
Are we doing oars?
she's looking for more work, is she? The salted tongues.
We will take the.
Can I trust you with the gunpowder?
Yes, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Go away with it. Oops. I can take that one. You're going to date too? I will take two. You're looking for a wife, aren't you?
I'll take the
Perhaps you should.
That's our gunpowder. Be very careful with it.
From the bottom of their bill, now, or I can take that over. And are they going back in the boat shed?
Yes? Yes.
Yes, they are.
Oh, good. You can pass that one to me if you want, or are you going to?
Certainly. I'll take another. There'll be more. You have it? Yep. Good.
The story of the York boats resurfaced in Edmonton during the 1970s, when first one, then a second, were built for the city's newest museum, Fort Edmonton Park. The first boat eventually came to an inglorious end when it was crushed by ice, but the second had a longer career on the river, including a trip down the river all the way to historic Fort Garry and Winnipeg. Our ever-respected boat builder, Joseph Isserlis, helped build the second boat and was a crew member on the Winnipeg trip. In 1986, boat number 2 was retired, and it currently sits as a display piece inside the fort walls. A third York boat, YB3, was completed in 1986 by a team led by Joseph. It was transported to Vancouver for Expo 86 and was launched in False Creek. Since its return to Edmonton, and for the past 32 years, it has been launched every spring to spend summer months on the North Saskatchewan River, then moved to a riverside shed every fall. In 1995, YB3 was taken to Rocky Mountain House, and a crew rowed her back to Edmonton. During the 90s, Joseph welcomed and informed visitors and demonstrated his self-taught woodworking skills to build the park's first Red River cart. In the 2000s, Joseph began to build the fourth York boat in a boat shed easily accessed by park visitors, primarily to demonstrate the materials and methods that would have been used in 1846. The actual construction took up only a portion of his time, as a major goal was to answer questions and inform visitors about life in 1846. By 2013, pressure started to mount to see YB4 completed. Joseph was raising flags about his future retirement, and YB3 was nearing the end of its life. It was rotting in places, and each year some wood needed to be replaced. The planks, or strakes, tend to dry out in the winter, and the shrinking expansion cycles loosens tar and opens cracks, so the boat required more maintenance every year just to stay afloat. Prior to its annual launch, the boat had to be tipped from one side to the other, blistered tar removed, caulking checked and replaced, fresh tar applied, and everything above the waterline given a coat of linseed oil. The trip to and from the riverside boat shed must be handled carefully. Staff and volunteers use rollers, ingenuity, and mechanical help to get the boat as gently as possible into and out of the water. It is heavy and the path is not flat. Volunteers were recruited for the YB4 construction, some through canoe clubs, Scottish and Norse societies, and boat shops. The recruits were expected to have some woodworking experience, steel-toed boots, leather gloves, and a willingness to pitch in. This group, male and female, ranged widely in age. Some were in secondary school, some were in university. Some had full-time jobs and others were retired. They came with a variety of backgrounds and with a variety of skills, but they were all drawn to the boat shed with common goals: to learn heritage skills and build a working replica of Western Canada's historical workhorse. Joseph guided his volunteer crew, teaching them boat building techniques that for some were quite new. In 2016, a second highly qualified boat builder, Doug Bewick, was hired, and in 2017, Doug shared his hours with the also skilled David Rose. So with Joseph, the equivalent of a second full-time builder, and the volunteer crew, the pace of construction picked up. There are a great many steps involved in the construction of the York boat, but here we'll simplify the process. Once the keel is laid, temporary forms are mounted that outline the shape of the boat. Birch ribs are steam bent and installed and held in place by temporary strips of wood. The first few strakes must be both twisted and bent to take the shape of the ribs, so they are soaked, then steamed in a steam box before they are flexible enough to be clamped into place. Each strake must be carefully shaped and fitted to match its neighbor before being finally riveted into place. While almost entirely honoring traditional building methods, tools, and materials, the modern York boat does use planed lumber from a sawmill, and since iron nails would rust too quickly and work loose over time, copper rivets, over 2,500 of them, are used to hold the strakes to the ribs. The rivets are made from copper rod that has been annealed in the forge, then cut to length, and a head is formed on one end. The rivet is inserted in a pre-drilled hole and held in place from the outside while a rove or washer is placed on the inside. The inside end of the rod is hammered round to finish the job. Thicker ribs sawn from spruce are mounted at the bow and stern, and strakes are added on each side until the gunwale height is reached. Each strake is made up of 3 planks, and where they join, an overlapping plate is mounted and firmly riveted in place. The heavy gunwales are steam bent and fixed in place. The floorboards or ceilings are fashioned and the seats are cut and installed. The mast is shaped, the oars are prepared, and YB4 is ready to be rolled out of the shed. She gets her first coat of linseed oil, and on June 29, 2018, YB4 was rolled out of the fort, ready to be loaded on the truck that was to take her down to be launched the following day.
Okay, folks, you want to back up?
And we'll pull it off.
You're ready to take the video as soon as you get that. I didn't need to do a video. I was like, I don't know how to video. Okay, no, figure it out. I'll just figure it again.
One or two pieces of room? Or two. Getting pretty close.
It's wet.
Okay, the keel's contact with water.
Field contact.
Watch it come in like a bastard.
Oh no!
Stand on the skids and they'll pull it loose.
There she floats.
Do you want to kick the bow out first so I can get the rudder on? Three cheers for the boat builders! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
Well, I would say, assume your positions, then get the hell
YB4 is no more. She will now be reverently known forever as Joseph'sFolly.
Hey, Doug! Good water line!
No, the thing is, you just got cool. You got no road. So, no, they knew that was all he was. That's all he was on.
Just the hustling. You're doing good.
First practice of the year.
Have fun, guys.
We cruise the seas for American gold. We fire no guns, shed no tears. I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier. The last to bear its pride. Seas for American gold. We fire no guns, Shed no tears. I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last to bear its
So on June 30th, 2018, Joseph'sFolly took her place on the North Saskatchewan River beside YB3, or Methuselah, as the old boat is now called, ready for a ceremonial double boat arrival on Canada Day, July 1st.
Somebody's got to be in the picture. Brent, you do it. Mine's this with the boat people. The boat people. Oh my God.
Methuselah is expected to retire to the Fort boat shed, while Joseph'sFolly will take her place every summer on the river.